Hi, everybody. I'm John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida, and welcome to Film Florida Friday. Film Florida Fridays are interactive conversations about current topics, initiatives, and relationship building in Florida's screen production industry. Today, we're highlighting some incredible women in production in honor of Women's History Month. Panelists will discuss their path to success in the industry, training, notable projects, some behind-the-scenes magic, and more. As promised, I'm not your host this month. In a moment, our special guest host and our panelists will introduce themselves, and then our host will ask some questions to get things going. During that time, we're going to ask everybody to keep their microphones on mute to avoid background noise. After we've gotten through initial questions, we'll open it up to the audience for questions and conversations, as we always do. At that time, please use the hand-raising function so we can call on you. We want this to be conversational and interactive, but we don't want everybody talking over each other. We're going to ask everybody to keep their questions and comments very brief in the interest of time and out of the fairness to others that may want the opportunity. Film Florida Fridays are always free, but we hope you'll consider donating $20.24 for our 2024 fundraising campaign. The donation link will be posted in the chat box throughout the discussion, or you can always find that on our website. With that, I want to introduce our special guest host for the day, Film Florida President Sandy Lighterman from Film Lauderdale. Sandy, take it away.
Thanks so much, John. I must say, I feel privileged to have so many accomplished women on this panel that I know personally. So, and I see there's actually a lot of accomplished women in our audience as well. So I think that's amazing. So I thank you ladies for joining. And I actually like you to, I'm going to start by asking you to give a brief introduction about yourself, where you're from, your background briefly, and so that then we can get into questions. So I'm going to throw it to Jennelle first. Jennelle?
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here on this International Women's Day, which is every day in my opinion. I'm Jennelle Jordan. I am a producer, production manager based in Central Florida. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I came down here 10 years ago after filming here quite a bit for the television show Forensic Files, which I produced for about 10 years. Loved it so much when we were filming down here that when the show ended, I moved here. So, that's sort of me in a nutshell. I do work freelance, producing and production managing, but I am also the in-house production manager at productionhub.com, and I am the president of Women in Film and Television Florida as well.
Nice, Jennelle. Thank you. Shona Tuckman.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excuse me. I'm from the UK originally, but I came over to the United States for college, and my mom said, don't meet anyone. And of course, 3 weeks later, I met my husband. And so we ended up in Florida, and I started my career here in Miami and in Fort Lauderdale as a PA, working on set, and kind of learned more doing that than I ever had in college. And have stayed in the area and sort of, worked my way up, as it were. And now have my own production company, create films, and I write and produce mostly. And I'm going to be getting into directing soon.
Nice, Shona. Thanks, Shona. Staci?
Hi, I have been wanting to be on the Film Florida podcast. This Friday highlights something, so I am beyond excited to be here. My name is Staci Talley, and I am a commercial producer. I'm based in Tampa, Florida. I grew up in Melbourne, Florida, and I went to school in Orlando. So I'm a Florida native, proud Florida native. And I like to say that I got my start in film and television when I was 10 or 11, and my grandma got a video camera, like one of those big bazooka things. And I filmed some short films as a kid, and I'm just blessed and lucky that I've turned my childhood passion into a career today.
That's awesome, Staci. We have a lot in common. And Cathleen Dean.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm originally from New York, but I have deep family roots here in South Florida. My grandparents immigrated here in the 20s from the Bahamas, and my dad was born and raised in Hallandale Beach. So I spent summers here. I've been in the community for over 20 years. I am a former producer of the 48-Hour Film Project, founder of Black Hat Media. I have done independent production work, and right now I've found my sweet spot is in impact documentary filmmaking.
Great. Well, those were lovely brief intros, and I look forward to now delving a little bit deeper into what you do in your backgrounds. Jennelle, you mentioned women in WIFT, Women Film and Television in South Florida, or all of Florida, I should say. Tell us a little bit more about the organization, and because we have a lot of women on here that might not even know about it, and men, because it's both.
Absolutely. So WIFT, Women in Film and Television Florida, is a chapter of WIFT US. So we are a women and men. We're probably, I don't know, 70-30, I would say, which is great. We have a lot of allies in addition to the wonderful women that are part of the organization. We are our mission. We are a 501c3 charitable organization. So our mission statement revolves all around education. We host workshops, networking events, all sorts of different things to help further education of our entertainment community throughout the state of Florida. We have branches, our headquarters are in Orlando. We have branches in Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, Melbourne, Daytona Beach, and South Florida. So if you are a member of WIFT, you can go to any of those events, workshops, networking events throughout the state for free. So it's one fee to join, and then you can attend any of those events throughout the state. So it's a great organization. It's one of the first organizations I connected with when I moved here. Met Lindsay, who was the film, Sheena and Lindsay, who were on the Film Commission in Orlando at the time. So it helped open up a lot of doors and meet new people, especially since I knew absolutely no one pretty much when I moved here. So just a great organization that really advocates for parity for women in the entertainment industry, and just furthering community and networking as a whole.
And this is part of a larger organization, obviously, right? Because it's a national, I don't know if it's international, but I know it's definitely a national organization, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we, we have Zoom events, and you can connect with different chapters, throughout the country. We actually have a reciprocal membership with NYWIFT, New York WIFT. So, there's a dual membership opportunity there, and you can also attend their events when you're in town traveling to, South by, or if you're up in New York or LA, so on and so forth. There are chapters throughout the US that you can also participate in their events as well. And they have, we've had Zoom events with the creators of Modern Family, and with, the head of procurement for Netflix and things like that. So it's a nice, also, part of a greater whole organization that you can connect throughout with people in the US.
And another thing, tell us a little bit about Production Hub and your role there, and what Production Hub is, because people might not know what Production Hub is.
Sure. So Production Hub is an online film book, essentially. So how we used to scroll through the film books and look and see, oh, this person doesn't even work in the industry anymore, or this person retired, or whatever. It is constantly changing as the industry does. So we are an online directory, essentially, so people can market themselves on the site, and then also clients in turn can go and find vendors on the site. So my role there as the in-house production manager is, we have people who are looking for vendors, all day, every day. We have hundreds of thousands of people that traffic the site per month, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming for clients who don't know or don't have the time. So they'll reach out to us and just say, hey, who would be a really great vendor in, St. Augustine or wherever throughout the entire world. We're worldwide. So my job there is to work with them sort of more one-on-one as a concierge, kind of service, to help them find really great people throughout the US and abroad. So yeah, that's Production Hub in a nutshell. Fantastic, fantastic website and whole organization there. A lot of great resources, contacts, and I encourage, you, if you're looking to connect with different people or market yourself, definitely a great place to do that.
Great, thank you. Production Hub's been around for a long time, so I'm glad that you're working with John with that. Staci, so you've been in the business for 10 years or more and produced over 200 commercials. I produced over 200 commercials in 25 years, so like that is impressive, I must say. So tell us about how did you find your way to specializing in commercial production?
Well, it's the unique kind of way that I found my way into commercials, because when I first moved to Tampa, when you move to a new place, it's hard to like get integrated film and television system because it's all about who you know. So I was actually going on an audition as an actor to a studio for a commercial, and I overheard one of the editors like complaining about Final Cut 10. And I'm an editor, so I'm like, oh, hey, I actually ran into this issue and you just need to do X, Y, and Z. Excuse me. And he's like, do you edit? And I was like, I do. And he's like, can you start next week? I was like, so I did not get the acting job, but I became a junior editor for commercials. It didn't take long before I realized I wanted to like put the commercials together. So that was kind of my back way in, was as a junior editor moving into a producing role.
And okay, that's great. But you also have, I think you've produced numerous short films, if I'm correct, and you've also worked with talk shows. So that's another part of your background. And also you're part of WIFT, you're part of Women in Film Florida, and you're a member of Film Florida. So those are kind of a lot of things that you do that in background. But with all of these different pieces and what you've touched on in professional and with these organizations, what do you the impact that you feel of a strong production community? What do you think that all of the different parts of what you're involved in, how that comes to be to make it strong?
Well, as far as producing is concerned, I did start with a lot of like episodics in Orlando, teen talk shows, women talk shows, like music countdowns, and they were all for the faith-based industry, and they were all like traditional broadcast. And then, so I have that background, and the short films that we did were for a lot of the churches to air and play for like educational purposes. And then, so I have that understanding, and then moving into commercials and having that understanding makes me bring a well-rounded approach to producing. So it's not so linear in commercials. And I think that gives me an edge and just a niche for my style of producing, just to bring those elements together. For WIFT, which I just became a board member this year, which was, I feel like it was 8 years in the making on my end. I was working my way there. And I've been a member of Film Florida for a long time. And I think those two communities here in Florida really introduces you to the inner workings of our film community, our initiatives, what we're doing to grow and strengthen the community. And if you don't know what those things are, you can't be part of the solution. You're part of the, before I joined the organizations, I felt helpless. I'm like, well, how do we make this better? How do we, I feel like I'm just always complaining about the scene. And when I joined Film Florida and WIFT, I felt like I was part of a solution. And I love to know what's going on. I might be a little bit nosy. So when we go to the Film Florida meetings, I learned everything from all of the entire state. And now you can be a part of the solution instead of feeling like you're just sitting on the sidelines. So it's important to understand your film community.
That was a great answer, actually. Love that. I'm going to try to get to everybody else. Kathleen, I'm going to come to you. You've had many accomplishments as a filmmaker, You have created the Emmy award-winning film, Wade in the Water, Drowning in Racism. And so tell us a little bit about that film, because I know that's been a, you know, a big, you know, a big accomplishment for you.
Thank you. So that documentary film started as an exploration of art and storytelling about my community here in South Florida. When I learned about the, you know, the deep history of segregation as far as the beaches and the swimming pools go, I was just inspired to share the story in a very artistic way. The film is sort of infused with this wonderful poetry written by a local poet. Somehow that film resonated with audiences who were interested in connecting with the water for water safety and drowning prevention. So I've sort of inadvertently become an aquatic activist through this filmmaking, which just goes to, you know, highlight the power of film to have an impact and change culture. So I partner with an organization called Diversity in Aquatics, and I take the film around and we show it. It inspires people to take action, to learn to swim, to support swim lessons. And it's been quite an amazing journey, and just loving the power of storytelling. And I've also, in addition to producing my own documentary films, I've had the opportunity to mentor other filmmakers. I've worked with South Florida PBS recently on their Flip the Script project. So it's been quite an amazing journey.
Well, you know, I was just going to say about documentary filmmaking, you think you're starting with one subject and then it expands to another. I know others that have come into the same place where they've become activists that they never thought they would be in an area, but that's commendable that you've, you know, continued with that. You know, you've also been an educator. You've taught, you know, students, I know with the YMCA, with the programs there, as well as others. You were the producer for so many years with the 48-hour film project in South Florida, and you've received, you know, awards for your work. So what has been the most rewarding part of all of those parts of your career?
You know, as the city producer for the 48-hour film project for over a decade, there were three things that were really important about that: was community, collaboration, and creativity. So I had the opportunity to produce this film festival, as well as to produce networking events that led up to the festival, where people would, you know, meet each other and form collaborations and, you know, express their creativity on that crazy wild weekend, you know, the filmmaking. But the relationships, many of the relationships lasted longer than that project weekend. And, you know, there's still people working together, making films, receiving awards, you know, producing for television. So that was really important to me. Community and creativity and collaboration. I mean, that's what it's all about in film, right?
Yeah, an awesome answer, really. So Shona, where are you? There you are. Shona, you know, you've produced multiple titles, multiple films, that have been very successful. They've screened at TIFF and at Sundance. I think that at TIFF and War Story at Sundance. And you know, you've had other, you know, projects that you've secured theatrical deals with. And so take us through the journey of the films that you've produced, and you know, what do you, I guess, you know, you have a prolific career that, you know, your introduction just gave us such a tidbit of what you've done. So tell us a little bit about all of that and how you kind of gotten to where you are with these films and how you secured some theatrical deals. That's amazing.
I'll see if I can remember it all. Thank you, Sandy, for that. Yeah, I've produced I would say five feature films, all of which have been able to find distribution, which of course is the goal, is you want people to see the films that you spent years putting together. But you know how it all sort of started was I was of course working in production and realized that I wanted to do more, and sat down to write a script because I thought, well, let's have a go at that. And once I was finished with that script, so it's called Finding Joy, I was thinking, well, I'm going to go and make the film, and you know, someone will buy the script, or you know, and it doesn't work that way. You have to sort of make your own way. So I just decided, well, I'll just produce it, and it wasn't as simple as it sounds, but it eventually all kind of came together, and filmed the whole thing in Broward County, and we were lucky to have a great cast, and Warner Brothers distributed it to theaters. That was back when they were people were sort of doing that more often than they do now. I think it was 2013 maybe that it came out. So that was really exciting, and I thought, well, it's going to be easy to do the next one, when of course it's not. It's like reinventing the wheel every single time. And so, you know, I've always wanted to do this kind of thing, and I just kept kind of pushing all the balls up the hill, and eventually the second film was Fat. You mentioned that was a small film that we shot in Boston, and it got into the Toronto Film Festival, and we secured a small distributor from there. You know, so I don't know how much detail you want on each of these things, but each film kind of leads to the next is kind of what I'm getting at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you basically start from scratch again, you feel, with the next film, right?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you build your contacts, you know.
Right.
I have an agent at Gersh Agency in LA for producing, and I kind of met him through having made these films, and then your network kind of tends to grow, but you still have to keep generating everything yourself in a way, because nobody comes to you. You have to go to them, is what I've found as a producer. So, you know, I think the one of the most exciting films that I did make was War Story with Catherine Keener and Ben Kingsley, and we shot it in Sicily, and that was accepted into Sundance. So it was a big experience to go there and premiere there, and you know, see it on the screen at Sundance. That was very exciting. I'd like to do that again, please. At some point.
I'd like to be able to come and attend that, you know. That's where Shona and I known each other from being at multiple film festivals at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I know Shona. But you know, there's a interesting question I think a lot of people would want to know is, like, how do you figure out which project to pursue? You know, how do you do that and then secure the funding? And I know that's a two-pronged question, could be a little long, but we all want those answers.
It's a very, very good question, and people ask me that all the time. And it's I think the answer really is, I get people send me scripts a lot now, and if I read something and I get excited, there's a feeling I have about something, I say, this is something I cannot stop thinking about, then it's a good sign. If I'm reading something and it's not making me feel that way, then I'm not going to spend, you know, all of my energy and my time making it, because I won't have the passion to do that. So it has to be something that really excites me. And I like to write my own stuff as well, but I do read other people's work. A sort of small example of that is, I don't really make short films, but I was approached by a female director out of New York, who had this project that she was putting together. It was a short film, which I normally dismiss because I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that at this point. But she had an amazing script and an amazing cast already. It was Sawyer Spielberg, who is Steven Spielberg's son, and his wife Ray, and they were just the whole package was just amazing. And I decided to come on board and produce that film. And we're just, you know, sending it to film festivals and things like that now. But it just excited me, and I just said, well, I'll put some time into that. So it sort of depends, but like I said, most of the time I like to generate the idea myself and try to write it and make it myself.
And funding?
Oh, funding. Oh gosh, I hate that question, to be honest.
Yeah, who does?
I mean, I know it's everybody's nightmare. I mean, it's still a nightmare. And it's getting harder and harder, and I don't want to be negative about it, but it really is. The biggest thing is to try and have a name actor in your film or attached to be in your film, and then you can try to get financing. It's a chicken and egg situation every single time, though, because an actor doesn't want to say yes to a film unless it's funded, but it's, in my experience, it's never funded. I tried to get the actors first to generate the interest in the project, to then go out and say to a financier, this is the package that, you know, and Sandy, you know a little bit about the film I'm going to be directing called Maggie. I attached Anna Gunn, who's from Breaking Bad, and Luke Kirby, who plays is in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and they're both Emmy-winning actors, and they're amazing. And I'm still having a hard time raising the money because I need $3 million, and they are not necessarily, they're not Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. I mean, it's a really hard road, but they're right for the roles, and I really want them in the film, and they want to be in the film, and so I'm going to keep trying. But again, it's kind of like I said before, reinventing the wheel. Certain financiers are going to be interested in certain projects, and others are not. The more you can have to offer them, the easier it can be, though, if that makes sense. But it's hard to get the pieces.
And yeah, but that's good advice to those that are writing their and, you know, producing their own projects and trying to find projects to produce.
Yeah,
to have a talent in mind that they'd want to get to, but then that we would go down a whole rabbit hole on how you get to those talent. That's another whole Film Florida Friday. So I'm going to ask this to all of the panelists, so I will just call on you so you can think about it. You know, there's certainly been an industry shift in the last couple of years, and, you know, especially with women, minorities, you know, in the industry. What are some key wins that you feel women have in production have had, you know, in the industry? And then where do you think it needs to improve the industry? So let me start with Jennelle.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, key wins, I do feel like, you know, with the success of Barbie and even, you know, Taylor Swift's, you know, concert release film, I mean, obviously women sort of dominated the landscape last year and are continuing to do so. I mean, I think it just continues to open doors for other people, and just having, you know, the opportunities maybe more so, you know, with things like that. However, you know, they're still getting, you know, skipped over with nominations and, you know, stuff like that. So I feel like we keep, you know, making progress, but I still feel like there's more progress to be made continuously every day. You know, even within our own community, you know, just learning different below the line, you know, trades, and having more women in the camera department and the G&E department, and, you know, so on and so forth. I think, you know, holistically, there's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm encouraged, you know, with the continuation of, you know, building of, you know, things and opportunities, particularly, you know, it's something that we focus on and with. So, you know, is there more work to be done? Sure. Do we have, you know, some accomplishments and continuing to work on things? Yes. Could it be more? Absolutely.
Shona, what's your thought?
Yeah, I'm nodding like, yes, you're right. I would say that just one thing stands out for me to mention, and that was, I was talking about the film that I wrote called Maggie, and the actors attached, and I was originally thinking someone else will direct this, and then everyone said to me, no, you have to do it. And I said, oh, okay, sure. And then I thought, but I have not directed before, so I won't get the money. People are going to laugh at me. And but that I've never, not one person that I've sent the project to as attached as the writer director has said, you can't do this. Not one person. And I think that's the shift for me. I feel as if it were 10 years ago, as a woman, they would have not had so much support for me, being a new director. So I felt really good about that. I think that is a shift for me, I think, not to be told. Nobody said anything negative about it. Everyone has been very supportive and genuinely. So I think that to me is a shift.
Great. Kathleen?
So your question sort of made me think about Ava DuVernay, who is someone I just admire. She's had an outstanding career with success, like A Wrinkle in Time and Queen Sugar. And then most recently, a very interesting story about her most recent film, Origin. She had to go to, a foundation, sort of like an independent documentary filmmaker, to ask for funding in order to fund the film and tell the story that she wanted to tell. So that pendulum is just swinging back and forth. We're in a very unusual time right now. It seems like all of the resources that were sort of flooding the market for diversity in film and supporting filmmakers of color and women is getting pulled back. So we've got to be a little more creative in where we go to look for funding to tell our stories. The upside is that there are women in those organizations leading, funding organizations, doing, outreach and engagement in the community. And I believe, the opportunities there. We still have to kick down some doors, but we could do it.
Staci?
I agree with Kathleen. The pendulum is going, but if you take your eye off of it, it's like stopping where we don't want it to stop. And so that it's the good is that it is swinging. The bad side is that we have to work really hard to keep it going. So I think the positive of that is eventually the pendulum is just gonna swing by itself. Personally, I'm seeing a lot more, like in the commercial side, a lot more women in key creative roles and more female decision makers, where first starting, I didn't see that a lot. I recently worked on a commercial shoot in South Florida where on the call sheet there was, instead of best boy, it said best girl. And that was the first call sheet that I saw with that on there. And I was like, yes. And our camera department was more female than male. And it was very cool to see that with my own eyes. Like, I hear the initiatives, I know we're trying, but I've yet to see it. And I was just smiling all day looking at this female camera department. And but I do think, to Kathleen's point, a lot of the initiatives that we do have really great female leaders in place to help us with these initiatives, but there's still a lot of lip service in that way. Some of the initiatives don't hold water when it comes to putting females first or that diversity. And we need to work on that, or keep working on that, so that we can, Barbie, Taylor Swift, to Jennelle's point, all great, but then, how much weight does it hold if they're not even considered for nominations? When, brass tacks, literally, I think those statues are like some kind of brass, so we're not recognizing it. And that's what I mean by lip service.
I'm gonna throw something in here just on my behalf that you guys can answer. I've been in this business a lot longer than I think everybody on here in regards to my age. Through most of my career, only have been men in the room when I'm pitching something, right? But slowly I've seen in the room that I'm pitching only to men, and then there's more women in the room. So I'm wondering if you're seeing the same thing on behalf of there being more women in the room, whether it be on the creative side, whether it be, on the decision-making side. So I'll let you guys chime in on that.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I've definitely noticed that when I'm on Zoom, like you said, on a Zoom or you're on a pitch, that the room is definitely not all men. I mean, the same thing. I just the whole business from day one, any time I was on a set, it was just all men. And I remember I think it was a commercial actually that I was producing, and I was quite young, but the one of the grips or somebody came up to me and asked me to get them coffee. They thought I was the PA. They just assumed because I was female that I was not the producer of that project. And meanwhile, there's 60 people on set and I'm the one in charge, and I just couldn't believe it. But that's I don't think would happen today, and I think that is a good thing. But I am noticing that when I'm pitching, I'm doing a lot of television now as well, and I'm pitching to film production companies in LA and television companies with deals and HBO and Netflix and stuff like that. And the head of most of the people that I'm now pitching to are female, which I did not experience before. So it is good.
Just going to ask the person that asked you that. I'm sure that person will never forget that they asked you that on set.
And I'm British, so I was very polite, unfortunately. I wish I could go back and sort of make a better face than I did, but I kept them on the set, but I probably shouldn't have.
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I work more commercial production side of things, but I do see many more CMOs, SVPs, higher positions in the company, female, which I am thrilled, particularly with, female brands, it's like, well, let's make this make sense. So yeah, I'm seeing it more and more. I think it's very encouraging. I'm thrilled, when I'm making, these decisions overall with, production and production management with, females in the room for sure.
Staci or Kathleen?
I have as well. I've seen more women in the room, and it's a good thing, more in decision-making roles.
I work with an ad agency that is more medical, and their senior leadership is 57% female. And when we do have meetings, there's like teams of 20 to get on a call, and even the medical staff is mainly female. Like there's a really healthy mix of men and women, whereas even 5 or 6 years ago, it was, for the most part, you're the only lady on a call. And I've certainly seen that shift exponentially in the last 3 years.
Okay. So I'm gonna so we can get through the rest of the questions, I'm gonna ask for brief answers for these. So this is gonna be like the lightning round. What advice do you give women that are looking to join the industry, specifically women? Jennelle?
Oh boy, that's another great question. Be persistent. Do not change who you are for anybody else. Obviously, as my mother would tell me to be polite, still be polite and all that good stuff, but you don't have to back down for any man, woman, or, anything like that. So I think just, hold yourself in high regard and charge forward, as best you can, but, don't change yourself for anyone else.
Kathleen?
Well, as a former educator, I would say, well, you're always an educator. Hone your craft, right? Be the best at whatever it is that you do. Form relationships, organizations like Women in Film and Film Florida, or wonderful networking opportunities to meet people to help you further your career. And tell your stories. I think sometimes, it's an uphill battle to tell the stories that you want to tell, but, you know, stick to your guns. You know your story better than anybody else. And sometimes it's really difficult for people to, you know, as visual as we are with pitch decks and, you know, scripts and treatments, some people still don't see the vision until they see it on the big screen. So hold true to your ideals.
Staci?
My advice is to find a mentor, something I wish I had done sooner in my career, but surround yourself with like-minded people that can help you navigate your career path. Always advocate for yourself. Like Jennelle said, you don't have to back down or change yourself for anyone. And very important piece, never stop learning. Don't settle where you're at, because this industry changes every day. Like there's just always something new. So be open-minded to learning and understanding what those shifts are, and, you know, stay curious, resilient, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this, because you can. A lot of people, I'm sure all of you can agree, have told you at one point in time, like, oh, this isn't a real job, you can't do this, the uphill battles, but you can do it. Just stay with it.
Good advice. Shona, I'm going to hold on you for 1 second so you get to think for a second. I'm going to call on Hannah because Hannah's had her hand raised. Hannah, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. First, thanks to everyone for speaking. It was really great to hear about your experiences and all your accomplishments. Currently, I'm a producer with Oxenfree Film and Motion in Orlando, and found a really great safe space for me as a younger woman to be supported and speak my mind and have a seat at the table. And a lot of people are seeing more women in the room, but I think it still is a hard road for women to get there, especially younger women. And it was not an easy journey for me to find that space. I think that there is a significant issue with having to advocate for yourself when you're still in the early roles as a PA or as an assistant camera or any of those beginner roles. So all of you are mentioning advocating for yourself, but what tips do you have for continuing to accept work and say yes to things to build your resume, but still staying true to who you are, and trying to find a safe space?
I'll jump in. Hi, Hannah. So I think to Staci's earlier point, you know, finding a mentor, finding someone or an ally. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a woman. We have very strong male allies that are part of Women in Film and Television. You know, so I think, you know, you find someone on whatever production or in your area that you read, you know, that you're working in to, you know, help you navigate some of those things. And there are, you know, our organization, you know, in particular, like we do try to be just in set of ears, you know what I mean, to have people, you know, reach out to us with issues or questions or things like that, to help navigate, you know, especially those early stages of your career where, you know, well, this person is offering me, you know, $5 and a credit to, you know, to be on this production. Should I do it? You know, does that make sense? Or, you know, so on and so forth. You are your biggest cheerleader, but sometimes it does take, you know, someone sort of in your corner as well to help, you know, pump you up and give you a little bit of, you know, both moral, mental support to, you know, help you continue on those on your path. So to Staci's earlier point, I think that's very important.
I agree with Jennelle. The mentor, that's why I said I wish I had found the mentor earlier in my career, because the mentor that I did find was another producer who didn't take crap from anybody. But I'm like, you're accomplished. You can do and say all of these things. I cannot. I'm gonna get blacklisted. And she really taught me how to advocate for myself without, you know, just being aggressive or overwhelming, because sometimes you just want to fight people and it's like you can't do that. It's not professional. But there are people out there that want to do that and want to help encourage young women such as yourself. That's why I got into this business. I was treated badly early in my career, and I promised myself that I am going to do better and be better than that, and have safe sets and have encouraging sets where everyone can grow and learn from each other. So they're out there. They're out there. Not everything is going to be that hard.
And I just ditto everything that was said. I think, you know, a mentor is important in definitely in this field. And having a team of organizations that you can turn to for questions or support, you know, none of us need to be out there navigating this harsh industry alone.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. You're all saying everything I'm thinking. So,
Well,
yeah.
then I can go back to the question that I asked before, so that you can finish. We can finish that. You're like, what was that question? You know,
what was
similar to what we're talking about right now is, what advice would you give women that are looking to get into the industry?
Yeah, I forgot what the question was. I suppose it depends on the stage that someone is entering as well. I mean, I think that it's important to know exactly what you're interested in and to follow a specific path. You can veer from it, but you kind of have to have a sort of track that you're on, and whether you're deciding you want to work in the sound department or the camera department or producing. I think you have to kind of know what that is quite early on, and that was my experience anyway. I knew what it was I wanted to do, and I kind of formed a path. And then like you were saying before, finding that the right mentor is really important. Someone that you can and also to listen to that person, because I've had people, you know, ask for advice and then completely ignore the advice and wonder why they ended up falling on their face. Not that I'm always right. I'm just saying that I think, you know, when people have had experiences and you want to veer them away from having the same negative experience that you had, listen to them because, you know, especially in this business, unfortunately, there are some really shady people that you have to be careful. And I'm not just talking about being female, just in general. So just be cautious and find the right people that you can trust.
That's good advice. Really, really, that's great advice. I think I'm gonna open it up to the audience for questions, because I know I see one up there and I'm hoping there'll be more. Rebecca, it's all you. Spotlight on you.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I just want to thank the panelists and Film Florida for doing this really important topic. And you all are really role models, not just to the younger people, but to us old folks as well. But I come from a legal and corporate background, and there's a lot of research out there that shows that percentages of women in different areas of practice affects the diversity, the equity that transpires in the industry. So, and I'm sure that there's lots of studies out there already, and I think the unions may have some sort of agreements or, you know, quota levels. What is your thinking on that? Do you think that, you know, having some sort of an agreement, especially amongst the big players, of a certain percentage of women in specific types of roles in filmmaking at every level, would that, do you think, be impactful in any way, as it has been in some other industries? So that's really my question. Thanks.
I guess I don't know how
Yeah.
you put that in place legally, but I do think that, you know, I have a teenage daughter and a son as well, and in their school they have a TV studio, and I wish I'd had that when I was younger. But there's ways for young people to be introduced to this business that then can, you know, then they can form an interest and then potentially, you know, take on some of these jobs, which wasn't there, I don't think, you know, when we were coming up. So I think that the next generation is going to be more, you know, balanced, hopefully, of female to male and diverse and all sorts of things. But I don't know anything about the legality of requiring a certain number of women in a certain number of roles in this business. I don't know about that.
I meant a voluntary agreement amongst production companies, say.
Gotcha. I was just gonna say that I'm gonna throw something out there that I don't know if you know, that has just come out in Deadline and the press, that there is someone that is suing for reverse discrimination of as being white. And that is opening up a whole nother conversation. Yes, in Hollywood. So I just throwing that out there. Everybody's going to go, what? And it's just, yeah,
I mean, it's a challenge to your point. I mean, I don't know how we would broach that. I'm not for it. But I do think, you know, it should be more than just checking a box. I mean, obviously we want the best people for the role in the role. I think it's the consideration, the larger swath of consideration, as opposed to just checking a box. We deal with it a lot at Production Hub, you know, and people are looking for, you know, I would like a, you know, an African-American DP. And while I am for it, I am absolutely for it, particularly if that's what you want for your project. The pushback that we get, you know, well, why is this going out to, you know, why are you only considering African-American DPs? You know, it's a larger bucket conversation, I think, you know, to Sandy's point, and I didn't know that article came out, but I think the consideration should be bigger than it is, but I'm not sure how to go about, you know, having sort of that quota balance that you mentioned.
So, you know, with the attack on affirmative action, let me just say that affirmative action changed the lives, it brought equity to a whole population of people of color who normally would not have been in the room, right? People tend to hire people from the community. They hire people that they know. So if you have another community, of a darker hue that is not, you know, at the same golf club or, you know, wherever people go to meet and let people in the door, it's problematic. I mean, there needs to be some equity, diversity, and inclusion considerations in hiring.
And in opportunities, right? So if you know, women, people of color, like, don't have the opportunities, then they're not considered for the box to be checked, because they haven't had the opportunity to learn and grow in that space, because it's difficult. It's difficult to get in. It was difficult for me to be taken seriously in almost any facet of this business. So if I'm just speaking from my personal experience, so sometimes it's not necessarily the legalities of checking these boxes, as they say, but it's creating more opportunities for people that otherwise wouldn't have them to learn and grow in an industry that's not so welcoming right now. And that's the problem. Like, personally speaking, my male counterparts have a lot more experience than I do, but they've been provided a lot more opportunities than I've been provided in my career. And some of them are really cool about it. You know, I work with a mentor in LA that recognizes this for females and people of color in particular. He takes all of us in and is like, hey, I know that I'm, you know, a white dude in this industry, and that you guys don't have the same opportunities that I do. So, you know, come into my world. Let me open whatever doors I can. But he creates this space to learn, so that you're not just walking in and immediately getting fired because you know what you're doing. He's creating education and awareness at the same time. And I think that's important for us to have those opportunities to learn and grow.
Shona, you want to chime in before I take another question, or you?
Me?
Yeah, yes, you.
No, I'm just nodding. I'm just agreeing. I'm thinking, wow, who is this person? I want to meet
I
them.
was thinking the same thing, by the way. She's like, Stacy's going, I'm not going to divulge my, but
No, it's Jordan Brady, jordanbrady.com. You just go if you want.
Wonderful to have that connection though. That's really great.
like, again, those are mentors that we've been talking about, right? It's really a mentor in a sense of, of being inclusive and inviting you into the world and lifting, what is the expression? Because I always forget it. High tides lift all boats, right? Kind of thing.
Rising tides raise all ships.
Thank you. I know it's boats and tides or something, rising boats. So I'm going to go on to another question. I see Lori, you've had your hand up, Lori Turchin.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for putting this panel together. It's been very wonderful listening to all you women. I moved here from Los Angeles 34 years ago. And I think the thing that stuck out the most to me when I moved to the Orlando market is just how saturated with women at the top it was. This was the era of the Sarah Fullers and the Tammy Stones who started women in film when it was just women in film and the only chapter. If you wanted to work in Orlando, you had to know the women, bottom line. And I have to say that for me was the best part. I was only supposed to be here 9 months, not 34 years. So I kind of and I know a lot of people that have that kind of story about Florida in general or Orlando. But I have to say, and not only that, but through being involved with the arts in like the last decade, I've definitely seen diversity and inclusion. And I have to say, I think Orlando's really kind of led the way. I remember meeting my first female grip, living here in Orlando. And I have to say, hats off to all you ladies that fight the good fight. It's not easy being a woman in this industry. And I have to say, I feel fortunate that I've never really consciously, at least, felt any prejudice or less than, because that's just who I am. I won't let anyone make me feel that way. But yeah, women rock. And if you look at a lot of the big male directors, you'll see that most of them have a female producer behind them. So just saying. Thank you. Wasn't really a question so much as just an observation.
It was a contribution, which is great.
Yes.
While I'm going to call on the last two people because of time, if any of our panelists want to put any of their contact information in the chat for connection, that would be great. If you don't want to, that's awesome. That's fine too. Lindell, if I'm going to say that correctly, Lindell Michael, you have a question?
Lindell is correct. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess this is in the category of learn and grow, maybe contribution as well. I have a fairly good friend who is an attorney, and when I used the term reverse discrimination, she corrected me. She said it's discrimination. And so that sort of clarified things for me. But I'd always worked in a man's world, primarily broadcast and corporate areas. So I'm pleased to say that my short film, my first narrative, is in post-production. And everyone on both the IT side and the creative side is a woman, except for one man. So I'm hoping that gets out there somewhere and wins some awards, but prayers are welcome, and I'm a faith-based writer, filmmaker. Thank you for all you've done today.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And then we're going to take one last one. Jaylyn, you have a question?
Hey. Yes. Thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with us today. But I did just have a question. I actually have two questions, but I'll keep them brief, hopefully. But my first question being, I'm often told that to work in the film industry, you have to go where the business is. And a lot of the time I'm told that that's in California or maybe even New York. And so what are your thoughts on, I guess like the future of film either in Florida? Do you feel like, there's opportunities that will arise here and, that hopefully it'll blossom into something more? So that would be my first question. And then my second question was I'm in a currently a really great role that I love, and I'm learning a lot in my role. I'm an executive assistant at Steamroller Animation, which is based in Mount Dora, Florida. And it's a really great learning opportunity. And I feel like I'm learning a lot about the business and how everything works. But I do wonder, how can I use this role that I'm currently in for future opportunities, or how can I take advantage of what I'm currently doing and hope that it'll, either put me in a direction that I'd like to go in that's more on the creative side, or if there's something maybe outside of my job that I can do. And so, yeah, I think those are my two questions. So hopefully we have enough time. So, thank you.
Want to chime in?
I'll jump in on the sort of state of the union. I guess that's timely. So I moved to Florida on purpose because of the opportunities here as opposed to what was presented to me in Pennsylvania. I had the chance to move to New York, and I chose to move here. I know we have a lack of incentives right now from a statewide basis, and we are not fully supported, obviously, by the current governmental infrastructure. But there are some really great things that individual, municipalities. Sandy is just one of them that are providing different opportunities with local incentives, or just really some deep level support. And there are entities throughout the state that do that, Tampa Bay and Michelle and others. But as far as work here, I have never been called more for projects than I have this past month, I swear to you. So, and I work mostly in commercials, which is really, our sort of bread and butter in Florida, because what's prettier than Florida, in February, certainly almost nowhere else in the country. Plus we are a right to work state, which is appealing to different production companies and brands. So, I think there are a ton of opportunities throughout. I can't speak specifically to features, production, but commercial production is booming. We do have a lot of opportunities. We have the best crew. I will advocate for our crew all day long, throughout the state.
Amen.
So I'm encouraged. I am truly encouraged. Could we be doing better? Again, yes, absolutely. Support from the state would be wonderful. But we have a lot of hardworking, great people here that continue to, advance us as a community as a whole.
Shona, you want to chime in on features?
You said it very well. And I'm just going to call you out, Sandy, because you've done so much work seriously for this whole community. And I'm you're my friend, but I'm so in awe of everything you've managed to achieve and all the goals that you have set for yourself and Film Florida coming up. It's just fantastic, the support. And it's genuine and it's just wonderful. So thank you for all of that. And I'm always, this is where I live. I've obviously shot in other places, but I would love to be shooting everything I do here in Florida, and that's always my goal. Not always possible, but I know that in behind the scenes, you and your team are constantly working to make sure that I have the opportunity to do that as much as possible. And like you said, Jennelle, the crews in Florida are just phenomenal. And I think part of your mission, Sandy, when you go to LA and you go to other places, is to let people know that, because most people, when I do go to LA, they go, oh, there's crew in Florida. Yes, they're amazing. You should shoot in Florida, and So I'm sort of advocating also for that as much as I can. And like I said, everything I do, I try to set it in Florida, or encourage people to come here and to work with me as much as possible. And you're doing such great work, so I'm just want to thank you for that.
And I have to chime in on that too and give Sandy her accolades as well. When I moved here, the business was booming, and then it took that dive. But she's been working tirelessly on the scene to bring it back to what it was. And I appreciate that because I love my home here in South Florida. I want to live and work here. And there are amazing talent out there. So when you get those letters or the request to write the letters to lobby, submit them. She can't do all the work. We've got to be there to support the effort.
Staci, you wanna?
I agree. I agree with everyone. I'm thankful to you for everything that you've done, and for John. Film Florida is really a strong force in this community for all of Florida, and we do work hard as a team to bring the work that wants to bring us somewhere else to bring it here, because we know that we have the teams in place, the crew in place, the locations in particular, constant sunshine. It's this is really a great place to film and work. And I was born and raised here, and I've been told several times, oh, if go where the work is. Like, I am where the work is. There's work here. You can work here and make a career. And but like Jennelle said, there's always going to be work to do, no matter where you go. But we have a good, solid core team of people like Sandy and John Film Florida that are making that anchor for us here. So it's just going to go up.
Thank you for all that. Thank you for the accolades, ladies. But I will tell you, this is a team sport, right? So that means that, when, we are, we might be leading the team, but we need all of the support from, the community. When we do ask for letters, write the letter. When we do ask for, $20.24, it's not a lot, but it is a lot to the organization because it is a nonprofit. We are here, I'm gonna get on the soapbox of Film Florida, but we are here actually advocating to get, to have you live here, to make it better, to get incentives, to have a film-friendly state. So I just encourage everybody to get on board. And if you're not a member of Film Florida, join Film Florida. I know John was going to say that, but I said it for him. And I will just say one thing. I just came back from Los Angeles, meeting with all, whether it be independent producers, but all the majors in the room. They are like, we want to come to Florida. We want to come. So that's an encouraging sign. So therefore, when we ask for the help, when we ask for you guys to be members, because that helps us with the effort, with lobbyists and all of that. That's all the trickling effect to help us help you. And then I will now say thank you to these panelists, because I felt it was an honor to hear your background and stories. And you guys are incredibly strong women that are leading other women. And I feel that, you have helped our future female as well as other filmmakers and content creators, in your efforts. And then any last words? Or John, if you want to take over, I know we're close to being done. Where's John? Oh, you're on mute, John, so you can't speak at all. There you go.
There you go. Now I'm back. Now I'm officially back. No, I think that was amazing. And that's going to wrap up another edition of Film Florida Friday. Thank you to Jennelle, Staci, Shona, and Kathleen for being with us today. And Sandy, thank you very much for being our guest host. Of course, thanks to everybody that was in the audience for being with us today. And thanks to Katie Collins for helping us wrangle and prepare for Film Florida each month. We'll be back next month with another edition of Film Florida Friday, talking about marketing, advertising, and public relations for projects. Be on the lookout for the email blasts as they come through over the next couple of weeks. As always, thank you very much to our members for their continued support. As Sandy mentioned, if you're not a member, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. Keep up with everything we're doing on social media, on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And make sure you check out the Film Florida podcast, which is available on most major podcast outlets. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Thanks again for being here, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you to the audience. Amazing
Thank
turnout.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.